All right. Well, greetings, everyone. I'm Marissa Smith with the University of Minnesota Alumni Association, and I'm back with another 10 Things in 10 Minutes. And today I am so happy to be joined by Emily Roberts, the owner of Snake Discovery in Maplewood, Minnesota.
Hi.
Emily also hosts the wildly popular Snake Discovery YouTube channel, which provides informative videos on reptiles to over 3.4 million subscribers. Emily is featured on the cover of our spring 2024 issue of the Minnesota Alumni Magazine. And so we wanted to connect with her and learn more about your background and the work that you're doing and your connection to the University of Minnesota.
Awesome.
So
Thank you
let's
so much
dive
for
right
having
in.
me.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. How about we start by you just introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
For sure. Yeah. My name is, again, Emily, and I am the owner of Snake Discovery. I went to the University of Minnesota and I was part of Sea Fans, where my major was fisheries and wildlife. So after I got my bachelor's, I was a naturalist, an interpretive naturalist for the Minnesota DNR, where I was stationed at a state park and essentially connected park visitors with natural resources in the form of various programs. So that's kind of what started Snake Discovery's reptile programs too. But yeah, now we have a reptile YouTube channel and a storefront and a zoo and everything reptile and education is what we're all about.
Could you have imagined that this is where you would be? How did you come to do what you are doing today?
I never in a million years would guess that we'd be at this point, honestly. I had started at Carleton actually as a business major, but I ended up taking my first accounting class and I was like, nope, can't do this. So I quickly I did a 180 and I switched to fisheries and wildlife, which worked out very well in comparison. But I've always had a bit of a business mindset, and I knew I wanted to own some sort of business growing up. Just didn't know exactly what it was going to be. But I worked at a PetSmart for a while as a manager there, and I kind of got some retail experience. And then after graduating, working as a naturalist, that taught me how to teach people about natural resources. And I realized, you know what? After that temporary naturalist job was done, I really enjoyed it, especially teaching people about wildlife specifically. And since I had a passion for reptiles too, I just kind of developed a traveling reptile show of sorts where I just taught people about reptiles and amphibians and I tried to make it very hands on and engaging so you could keep kids' attention. But after the programs started kind of taking off and I was doing like 350 a year, I was like, maybe other people want to learn about reptiles too. So I made it a goal to just do one educational video a week for an entire year. And after that, I could either continue if I enjoyed it or stop and have a good bank of educational videos to teach people about these animals. But it turned out to be a lot of fun making videos. So I continued that. And then the funds from, that 5-second ad you watch at the beginning of a YouTube video, we saved those funds and bought a building in Maplewood and turned it into more of a home base for our programs. But because of the size of the building, we were able to do a lot more too. So that's where my, I guess, retail business experience and passion kind of was able to come through in that, oh my gosh, this building's big enough. We can have a reptile specific store, a retail store, as well as there's tons of extra space. Let's do an exhibit room so people can come in and it's like an indoor zoo. So one thing just kind of led to the next with just a passion for reptiles, really.
You can really see how those threads came together
Yeah.
to where you are today. I'm curious, what would someone outside of your field find surprising?
If you're not into reptiles, something that's surprising is part of your day-to-day life is just holding dead animals in your hand because you have to feed some snakes. Like earlier today, I had a few dead mice in my hand because I'm like, oh, I have these 3 snakes to feed in the zoo. It just is part of your day. You just can't be squeamish at all, and it's the circle of life. But yeah, sometimes I kind of take a step back and I'm like, oh, this is weird for a lot of people. Or I'm like scrubbing down an alligator enclosure. I'm like, this is odd for most people, but it's just our day to day lives.
Absolutely. What's normal to you is so foreign to some of the rest of us, but your work has made it so much more accessible to everyone, right? To learn and maybe consider what it would be like to be in that world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just trying to make it, I guess, easier for people to access that type of a lifestyle.
That's awesome. I'm curious, what was your first job and what did you learn from that experience?
Ooh, my first job was back when I was 14. I worked for an ice cream shop called Maggie Moo's in Woodbury. I was definitely a Woodbury person. That's where I grew up. My first job, I worked at that PetSmart, and now we have our zoo is in Maplewood, which is like next door to Woodbury. But yeah, I worked at Maggie Moo's, where it was kind of like a different brand of Cold Stone, very similar concept as Cold Stone is. And that taught me really customer service. And I guess specifically, it taught me what I call the no but approach to customers, where if you have to tell a customer no, you always follow it up with something else to kind of divert towards something they can do instead. And we use that every day here in the zoo. Like, can I hold the rattlesnake? No, but you can touch this boa constrictor. And it like helps every interaction with customers that could be potentially negative. It turns it into a positive one every time.
Oh, that's such a valuable skill to have in so many walks of life. That's wonderful. I would imagine that, you've grown Snake Discovery beyond just yourself, into a team of folks. What is the most important thing you look for in someone that you hire?
Yeah, for hiring, that was something I never thought I'd be doing either, but I did have a bit of management experience prior with the PetSmart job I took. I did a bit of hiring there. But I've definitely learned a lot more running my own business and how important it is to hire passionate individuals. So honestly, the first question I ask is, tell me about yourself. What do you do in your spare time? And as long as the applicant has some sort of passion for something, it doesn't even have to be about reptiles. It's, I have a passion for cars. I really like cars. This is what I do with cars. Insert any hobby there. As long as there's a passion for it, we found that they will, I feel, be a little bit more dedicated to the job, because if they have a passion for anything, we can get them interested in reptiles. And then it just kind of goes from there. So just looking for that passion, as opposed to someone who's responding to that question with, oh, I don't know, I hang out, I guess, being apathetic. We've found that that is also reflected in their job as well. So just looking for a passion is the biggest thing with hiring.
Oh, I love that. There's certain things that can be, trained and taught on the spot, and then there's certain things that are sort of built within you. And so to be
Yes,
able to screen for those up front, that's great.
absolutely.
Our next question, it's a little vulnerable, but I'm curious, what's a mistake you've made along the way, and what did you learn from that experience?
That's a great question. The a mistake that I have made was actually in our first couple of weeks of opening our retail store here. We do a bit of a rescue too, so we take in unwanted reptiles, we adopt them out. And when we first opened, we had a guy come in who wanted to adopt a leopard gecko. And I got weird vibes from him, but he wanted a leopard gecko. He wanted to go home with the leopard gecko that day. So I was giving him advice and the supplies he would need. And he kept coming up with excuses like, oh, I can get that at Home Depot, or oh, I'll get that elsewhere. Oh, I'll just get a tub for its enclosure. And I didn't know how to say no, so I allowed him to adopt the leopard gecko. Turns out he put it in too small of an enclosure, improper heat. It thankfully was resurrendered back to us when he felt like he was in over his head with the animal.
Mm.
So it's in good hands now and it's fine. But it really taught me that, you have to screen people a bit more. So it gave us a new policy in that we just ask for a picture of an appropriate setup for each animal before we approve them for adoption, just to prevent
Mhm.
that from happening again. So one of those things I never again thought I'd be encountering, but you learn from the mistakes, and thankfully the animal was okay in the end.
Oh, that's a good result at the end, and yeah, that importance of just sort of trusting your gut and then building protocols that help protect you and the animals after that. And
Yes,
the
yes.
reason we ask that question is because everyone in their path that at some point has encountered a challenge or a struggle, and just normalize that, right? And that.
Oh, absolutely. Even like jobs that just don't work out. One of my jobs after I graduated, because I was still trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, was I took a job at a cave where I was a manager of the education or interpretive program. And I took the job, and the environment was just, I went home in tears just about every day because of the other coworkers, and it was not a good, healthy environment. So I'm like, you know what? I can't do this. So I lasted a week and a half at that job that could have been a career for me, but it just wasn't right. I wasn't happy at all. And that happens sometimes. You have to tell yourself it's
Mhm.
okay. If a job isn't going to work out, don't stick with it. Do something that makes you happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a really great segue into the next question, which is around, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
You know, I think other than if a job doesn't work
If the
out, yeah,
job doesn't work
don't
out.
yeah, yeah, get out of there, exactly. I think it's still very important to follow your passion, but don't expect it to be successful right off the bat. So, for example, don't expect after graduation to get a $100,000 a year salary. You have to, especially in any animal field like what I was in, you have to scratch and claw your way to get anywhere sustainable for a normal household, but it's worth it. So follow the passion, but be prepared to work hard, and as long as you do, you will get there, but just don't expect wild success immediately after graduation.
That's excellent advice. Excellent advice. Because I think so often we can look at others' career paths and marvel at where they are and not understand, the starts and stops and the trials along the way, to get there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there were a lot of stepping stones to finally, and we're still learning and changing something every day still. It's not done. It never is. But it takes a lot of work to get really
Yeah,
anywhere
that's
in the
another great
animal field.
takeaway. Yeah, another great takeaway is you're never done. You're never
Right.
done. Let's talk about campus a little bit. What was your favorite campus restaurant or hidden gem, back at the University of Minnesota?
I had all since I completed my generals at a community college before transferring to the U of M,
Mhm.
all of my classes were on the St. Paul campus, so I've gotta say it was St. Paul campus. I went to the East Bank just for transportation reasons, like, I took the Metro Transit, so I guess I went to East Bank just to get to St. Paul campus, but I didn't spend any time there. So, St. Paul campus, the most hidden gem I guess favorite restaurant is Mim's Cafe, which I'm glad to see is still there, and favorite hidden gem is the Raptor Center, which people don't realize, like, there's an incredible Raptor Center, like, world known, right in our backyards, right there at the St. Paul campus, and they're open to the public. They do tours, they do educational things, and if you go to the St. Paul campus, definitely check them out because they're an amazing resource that could turn into a job itself. But yeah, they're just right there, and it's bonkers that people don't realize that Raptor Center it's available for you to learn from.
Oh, I'm so glad you gave a shout out to all the fabulousness that is the St. Paul campus because it is fantastic.
It's the best.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Oh, I can't think of anything of those. This is fun. Just a quick
I
10
know we do
questions.
10 things, 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess biggest thing is just reiterating you'll have to work hard if you are in the animal field of any sorts, but it is so rewarding. And really, even if you don't make a ton of money, you do it for the passion of the animals and just being able to help animals in some way or another. If that's something you like to do, pursue it. Even if it's a job field that isn't incredibly lucrative, it's still so rewarding that makes up for it.
Emily, thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us today. And if you haven't already, check out Emily on the cover of the spring 2024 issue of the Minnesota Alumni Magazine. Learn more about her work at Snake Discovery. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you for having me.